Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another Bad Batch review episode. Now, as always, because I record these during the day, I do have my daughter here sitting with me, so if you hear any coos or baby sounds, that's what it is. Anyway, today we'll be discussing episode 6 of the Bad Batch. It was called Decommissioned. There will be full spoilers for the episode in this video, and as was the case last time, first of all, we're going to be talking about one key issue that I picked out, i.e. who was the character at the end. Then I'll go through and give my full impressions. I'll include timestamps down in the description in case you want to skip around. Anyway, today's episode saw the return of the Martez sisters from the Clone Wars Season 7. I actually quite liked their arc in Season 7, we'll talk more about them later, but the Martez sisters alongside the Bad Batch were trying to get their hands on a tactical droid so they could use the information from the Clone Wars that the droid had collected in order to fight the Empire. Anyway, by the end of the episode, the Martez sisters are the ones with the droid's data, and we see them calling to a shadowy figure, telling him not only that they've recovered the data, but also that they know the location of some anti-Imperial clones, i.e. the Bad Batch. I say he, but it could very well be a woman. I'm just assuming it's a man because of the general shape of the side of the body that we see, but really, who knows? It's definitely, or almost certainly anyway, a good guy, and the music was a bit ambiguous, even a bit dark perhaps, but I mean, at this point it's been well established that the Martez sisters are good people, and I truly do believe that they are securing the data for the purposes that they stated. So the obvious answer is Watto, hoping to get back at Anakin and fight back against the Empire's new regime. No, I'm just joking, but in my mind, the most likely scenario is that this is Bail Organa. And it does look somewhat like Bail. He's often wearing a sort of cape over one of his shoulders. We know that he was a part of very early resistance movements against the Empire, although from the inside, often incognito. Other people are guessing Ahsoka, partially because of the inclusion of R7. I don't remember if the Martez sisters had a droid. Ahsoka had one called R7, but it was destroyed at the end of the Clone Wars, so it's not that droid, plus the coloration was different. Although I will note, this R7 actually goes through 2 different colorations in subsequent scenes, so that's a little weird. I personally don't think it's Ahsoka. I don't know if she would have been this active immediately after Order 66. I think she's probably trying to keep on the down low. She does have a connection to the Martez sisters, but still, I think Ahsoka is probably not the most likely option here. Another more likely choice would be Rex. We know that Rex is going to meet the Bad Batch. The Martez sisters specifically may have mentioned clones, so that Rex knows that the Bad Batch and that the people they're talking about are brothers in arms. He may be wearing a large robe to cover his armor, which makes sense. I mean, you don't want to walk around in clone armor if you're not an active clone or stormtrooper. And then finally, I will mention that it's possible it's a Jedi. Again, I don't think this is super likely. It could be maybe Quinlan Vos or somebody else who survived Order 66. I'm not sure. All in all, though, I think in terms of likeliness, Rex and Bail are right up at the top. Ahsoka is quite a bit below. After that, it's anyone's guess. Alright, so let's talk about my general review of the episode, and again, I say this every time, the Bad Batch is beautiful. I'm not going to spend time talking about that this episode because I'd say, really just because of how the episode was structured, most of it was spent inside. There weren't very many grand vistas except when they were approaching Corellia. This wasn't really the episode that showed off the incredible visual and animation effects present. So let's move on. The story of this one was pretty simple. The Bad Batch are now fully under the thumb of their Trandoshan mother, who's sending them on missions, which I'm kind of excited about. That's how I figured the show was going to be structured early on. It seems like they're going to be going on these missions for a while, and then the plot will be progressing. At some point, of course, they're going to have another run-in with the Empire, and as we saw in this episode, Wrecker's inhibitor chip, as we talked about last week, is now pretty much beginning to activate. He took another hit to the head. He said good soldiers follow orders. Something pretty tragic could happen in the future. At the very least, this may be why the Bad Batch searches out Rex so that they can help get the inhibitor chip down. Someone also pointed out on Twitter that the Bad Batch at some point goes somewhere where there are Venators. Could it be that they're using the Venators for their onboard surgical labs? Because we know that those can remove the inhibitor chips? That makes sense to me. I like the choice to go to Corellia. It's very cool to go to these really big EU planets, but I kind of wish we wouldn't have just seen another solo look at Corellia. Like, we're again in the Corellian industrial zone. That's a very small part of the overall planet. We didn't get very much as we were flying in. That, to me, was my biggest disappointment. Corellia is such a cool and so far underused planet, at least visually. Let's see more of it. Let's see some of the bigger cities, some of the non-industrial zones. It would have been cool if they had been forced to stay at Corellia for a while before immediately leaving. Anyway, much of the episode is sort of the Bad Batch getting their way into this factory, finding the head of the droid. Then, of course, everyone gets separated. The security droids, which kind of reminded me, by the way, of the New Republic security droids from The Mandalorian, put up quite a bit of a fight. The CIS droids, which were being demolished, end up activating, and there you go. That's kind of the main plot of the episode. As I mentioned, the Bad Batch also encounters the Martez sisters, who were doing their own thing, trying to recover the head for some boss of theirs. It ends up that the head itself is destroyed. Echo, who is really well used in this episode in my opinion, ends up making a copy. The copy is given to the Martez sisters, and the Bad Batch are forced to return home empty-handed. So yeah, not really a groundbreaking episode, but I do like that even these sort of adventure episodes, which in the Clone Wars would have been probably more self-contained, and ditto for Star Wars Rebels, are still advancing the overall narrative. Like, this episode could have just been the Bad Batch trying to get into this facility, but instead we see the Martez sisters, the beginning of the rebellion forming, we see that there's more people at play here, and we get a better look at the motivations of the individuals within the Bad Batch, all while Wrecker's sort of eventual turning is being hinted at more and more. So this is something that I like compared to Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars, and as I talked about last time, I also think people do need to set their expectations correctly for an animated show with 16 plus episodes a season and probably 4 or 5 seasons. This isn't going to be a show, as I mentioned, where every episode sees the Bad Batch fighting the Empire and sees someone killed and sees a whole lot of drama. You have to expect this to be somewhat structured like the Rebels and the Clone Wars, although for this show, Season 1 is actually moving much quicker and is much higher quality than either Clone Wars or Rebels, in my opinion, which was a lot of sort of adventures of the day without any greater overall plot threads, in my opinion at least. Now, that wasn't always the case. Certainly the plot did move through Season 1 in those shows, but the Bad Batch is just starting off more strongly, in my opinion at least. As I mentioned earlier, I do like the Martez sisters. I'm fans of their arc. I always liked the opportunity to visit Coruscant, so even in Season 7 I was all about that. However, this is a bit of the small universe thing. Like, did it need to be the Martez sisters? I'm not sure. We don't always need the same cast of 30 or 40 people. I mean, there's a chance they make a good connection with Clone Wars Season 7, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing them more now throughout the show. Who knows though? Either way, I thought their story was told pretty well in the Clone Wars, so I'm cool seeing them back. Again, I do like the sisters as characters, although I do kind of confuse them at this point. It's been a while since I've seen their arc in Season 7. I may need to rewatch it, especially if they are going to be returning characters. But yeah, all in all, a good episode. Probably not one of my favorites, but I quite liked it nonetheless. Again, this show has been consistently very high quality, so I'm looking forward to next week. What's going to happen next week? Well, maybe another mission. The Bad Batch still need money. They still need to, set their new life up, but it's also possible that we see the return of the Empire because it's been a few episodes since they've been included, or we may see Bale or Rex or whoever that was at the end try to initiate contact. But guys, that's all for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, be safe, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.